Доброе время суток тем, кто пришел посмотреть наш сегодня вебинар, всем, кто смотрит его в записи, либо вживую. Сегодня мы будем рассказывать о обучении в Великобритании. В первую очередь это будет разговор про высшие учебные заведения, как получить, какие есть учебные заведения, высшие учебные заведения, где можно, сколько они стоят, сколько, как получить визу, сколько студентов примерно из России учатся и многое другая информация. So let me introduce today Fani Cett. She will be joining me in a few minutes. She will tell us more about teaching in British universities, about fees, different locations of useful information about studying in UK. Herself, she is PhD at Goldsmith College at the moment. She is studying probably in her final year, but I don't. She will correct me on this. And she is doing her 1 year placement in Britain. She actually studying at Budapest University, but she will tell you more about this. So let's talk to Fani. I've reached her and she will tell you more about herself and about studying in Britain.
Yes, thank you, Andre. So thank you for inviting me today to talk to your viewers, and thank everybody for joining us today. So as you said, I'm currently studying at the Goldsmith University in London. I'm doing a PhD in science fiction, actually, in 19th century British science fiction. And my home university is in Budapest, in Hungary. And it's an American university. It's called the Central European University. And I'm doing my PhD studies there. And I also did a 1 year MA. And it's a good university in the sense that it gives scholarships for MA and PhD programs for both EU and international students. So if our viewers would be interested in this uni as well, they can look it up and see what opportunities there are. So it's called the Central European University. But what we wanted to talk about today is actually the studying in the UK and in the British universities. So I wanted to start. I have a little presentation, a PowerPoint presentation, and I will just start by showing you a slide. Okay, let me go back to. So this is basically a map. Can you see this, Andre?
Yes, I can see it, and it's on, so everything's perfect.
Perfect. So it's a map of the British universities. Also, Ireland is on this map, and you can see, of course, this doesn't do justice to all the unis across the UK, but it's just to give you a sense of location. And for example, here you can see London. So only in London you have 48 unis, and then all the rest of them dispersed throughout the country. And just to give you a sense of location, like where the Scottish universities are, and then north of England, and then other unis in England and Wales and in Northern Ireland. So I'm sure that most of our viewers have heard of Oxford and Cambridge, because these are the oldest British universities and also like the most prestigious ones. And actually, Cambridge and Oxford rank. They are the first two among the top 10 unis in the UK, and then the third one is Imperial College in London, and the fourth one is the University of St Andrews in Scotland, which you can see in this map. Andre, you can see now when I'm pointing to the.
Yeah, I can see perfectly well. I can see how you point.
Yeah, so the University of St Andrews is also a very prestigious one, and also then Durham University, which is in the north of England, like here. So these are among the top 5 in the UK, and then also, for For example, the university called London School of Economics, of which I will say more in a few minutes, is number 9. And also, like, just to mention that Cambridge and Oxford and Imperial College London, they're among the top 10 unis in the world as well. So okay, so I'm gonna switch to another slide, and just to give you like a very general sense of history of the British unis. So Oxford, for example, was the first uni on the British Isles. It was actually formed in the late 11th century, and I'm sure most of our viewers would be familiar with the films, with Harry Potter films, written by J.K. Rowling. So some parts of these movies were actually set, and they were shot in this uni, and also in this particular college, which is called Christchurch College. And also it was an inspiration for Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. So it's yeah, Oxford is a very you know, very colorful and very has very nice architecture, and it's yeah, it's very known internationally. So yeah, so Oxford was the first established college in the UK, and Cambridge came after Oxford. So Cambridge was established in 1209, which is in the beginning of the 13th century. And then it was followed by the Scottish universities, which you could see on that map. I'm going to switch briefly back to the map. So St Andrews and Glasgow and the university in Aberdeen, they were established in the 15th century. So that's in Scotland. And then you have Gresham College in London, which was established in the late 16th century. And then also Trinity College in Dublin, which is a very famous university, was also founded in the late 16th century by the Royal Charter from Queen Elizabeth. So this is Trinity College in Dublin. And then later, throughout the 18th century, throughout the Age of Enlightenment, you have establishment of medical schools, of very famous, what will become very famous medical schools at the universities of Edinburgh and Glasgow, and also London. And then there was a big expansion of the unis across the country in the 19th century, and then also later, obviously, in the 20th century. Can you see me, Andre?
Yes, I can see you perfectly well. I can see your presentation, not yourself.
Okay, I know that you wanted to ask me something about gender and the unis.
Yeah, well, a few questions I have for you already. Also, I would ask our viewers to send us questions, so for which we will be happy to answer in a few minutes. One thing is I wanted to ask, where was the first university in the world? It's quite interesting. Were they first university were in Britain or somewhere else?
Yeah, I think that was the Uni of Bologna in Italy, right? Is that right?
I think so too.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting uni. It's still quite international these days as well. So
I wasn't sure about the century, but do you know the century when it was established?
Well, I don't know. Apparently, it's oldest one. I thought it's much later, because if you said if in Oxford and Cambridge it was in 1100s, probably it was earlier. But again, we're talking about European universities. I'm sure some places where pupils would come and should study, they were existed in ancient Greece and in Arabic countries. You know, it's only, we are talking only about European universities, and I'm sure they much later, where people come and study. Obviously, in China, they had obviously quite old institution of how anyone could enter government exams to get a government job, and if you're clever enough, you get some places once you finish your education. So, but we're talking today about British education, so all this one were in Cambridge. But so who attend university in old age, do you know? And obviously, most interesting question is when women start joining universities. And so it's quite interesting because it's very little known about it. Tell us more, please.
Yeah, that's a good question, because I was surprised also when I found out that actually, so the first women's college was called Bedford College. It was established in London only in 1849, so it's the middle of the 19th century. And then other women's colleges followed. So you have, like, in Cambridge, Girton College was founded in 1869. And then in Oxford, women's colleges were formed in 1870s. So that's already towards the end of the 19th century. But what's interesting, I mean, these were women's colleges where, you know, women were admitted and they could obviously take courses and study. But this didn't mean that they could actually get a degree. They weren't full members, the same as men, which happened only later, which happened. So the first women who were given degrees that happened in 1880 by the University of London. But for example, in the famous unis that we mentioned in Oxford and Cambridge, this happened significantly later. So in Oxford, women were admitted as full members only in 1920, and in Cambridge even later in 1948. So that's basically, yeah, that's after the second.
This is really amazing. I never saw it. Just over 60 years ago, 70 years ago.
Yes, yeah. So after World War II, so that's quite late, actually. Yeah, and it's much later than I expected. So yes. Okay. So let us go to the presentation again, and to the next slide. And so, okay, so we talked a little bit about the history of British unis, but what about the present day? And this is what our viewers would be most interested in. So and you can see the slide now, Andre, right?
Yeah, I can see it perfectly well, thank you.
So yeah, studying in the UK is really, really costly and really, really expensive. And only a few years ago, the fees went significantly up. Actually, before that, they were much lower. So as you can see, I put here different fees on the undergraduate level and on the postgraduate level. And there's also a difference between home or EU students and the non-EU or international students. So as you can see, for undergraduate degrees in England and Wales, you would pay up to £9,000 per year. This is the biggest amount, but it can be much smaller. So it depends on the individual universities. And then in Northern Ireland, the fees go up to £3,575 per year. And in Scotland, it says free here, but this free means for Scottish people and for the EU students. So basically that means that people from England and from Wales do pay in Scotland as well, and they do pay up to 9,000. While for the international or non-EU students, yeah, the fees are bigger. And they are like, so the average that I found is £11,987 per year. Okay, and then we have postgraduate degrees, which here, so these amounts would be for MA degrees, so for masters, because for the PhDs, it varies a lot, and it really depends on the unis, on the course, whether it's a taught course mostly or a research course, so it's different.
So what is different between research course and taught course? So are they not part of the same kind of studying process?
Yeah, so research course would sometimes be so in a research course you do significantly much more your own research, so you are kind of more independent, whereas in taught course you take lots of courses, different classes.
So how many hours do you do when you have a taught course, and how many hours of study you have to do when you're in the
Yeah, are you talking now about the masters or the PhDs, or?
Well, let's talk about maybe first main course at university when you're just a student, and then when you do masters and when you do PhDs. How many hours a week you have?
Yeah, well, if it's just like a taught master's course, I would imagine that you do a lot of you do have lots of classes. Like for example, myself in my MA course, I did have like maybe 5 or 6 classes per week or something like this. Maybe you would have like, basically in 1 week you would need to go like maybe 4 days to the uni. You would maybe have like, be able to have 1 day free. So it can be really intense for the MA courses.
Well, what I heard from other students, it's for example, in Europe, in Germany, in Holland, students do much more study than they do in England or Spain or Italy.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, it depends, and I think there's also a difference if it's like a 1 year MA or 2 years MA. Okay. If it's 1 year, yeah, then it's quite condensed and very intense, and yeah. But if it's a 2 year MA, then then you can, it's a bit more relaxed, and you can then make your schedule differently, and for the you can put like the number of credits, you can arrange the way that it suits you across the 2 years. So it's kind of, and you have more time to do your final thesis, because it's 2 years. So yeah, so it depends basically. But what I wanted to, just to go back to the slide. So the average fee for a postgraduate course, so be it 1 year or 2 year MA, would be around £6,000. Mm-hmm. And then so for the that's for the home or the EU students, and then for the non-EU, it's like double the price. So it's like 12,390. This is the average figure. And then with clinical, which is to say medical degrees, it really varies across the different unis for home students. But for the international students, yeah, it's really big. It's £21,296. So yeah, so basically, yeah, studying in the UK, it's really costly. And you also...
One more question I would like to ask. So
yes.
If we talk about 21,000 a year, so if you do a degree, so
yeah, that's yes.
If you are a student of medical school, you need probably around £100,000 to finish your degree. Where the students get this money?
Yeah, I know, that's a really good question. So what the students do, well, they would normally take student loans, which basically, you take a loan, but then you need to pay it back after you get employed. And this can take years and years, so it's a kind of, yeah, or it's either that, or if you can, get some money from your parents or something like this, that's always a good option. But also there are funding opportunities available. There are on all levels of study, but especially on the MA and PhD levels. So there are scholarships and there are, grants that you can ask for, and it's both for the EU and for the non-EU students. And
do you get money only for study, or you get money for legal?
Yeah, that's important. That's an important thing to know. It depends. It's great if you get money also for your living costs, which include, so I just put a few of them. So it's housing, monthly pass for your for the public transportation, food, and those other stuff as well. So it's great if you get that. But if sometimes you can get only like a waiver of fees. So basically you don't need to pay the fees, but you need to provide for yourself for everything else. So, or sometimes you get what I had, for example, in my university in Hungary, you get a tuition fee waiver. You don't have to pay the fee. You get an accommodation in a dorm, which is great. And then you get just a little amount for your living costs. It's called a partial scholarship, but this is still enough for you to be able to, you know, to live normally and to, you know, so that's still okay. I think the fees, that's the biggest amount, and then the accommodation, and especially in London. Because in London, the accommodation is significantly, you know, it's significantly more expensive than in other places. So
I think in London, or in England, they give you university accommodations only for first year. I'm not sure about masters and PhDs, but in normal course of students, they give you accommodation only for first year. Then you have to look for accommodation yourself. Somewhere else.
Yeah. I'm not sure exactly about London. At the undergrad and MA levels, because I didn't study here. But yeah, I know there are, like, you know, you have like at the unis you would normally have accommodation, you know, services, and you would be able to contact them and be able maybe to find, if not dorm accommodation, then definitely like cheaper accommodation through them, or they would be able to help you find, like, you know, like accommodation for the student budget. So that's one way to go about it. So actually, yes. So the next thing, yes, what I wanted to talk about is scholarships and funding. Because, yeah, as I said, if you're a home student, yeah, you might be able to get a student loan. But if you're an international student, you might want to go for, you know, and try to find a scholarship or grant. And so I found this one web page, which is basically a scholarship database for both international and home students. So I just put a link there for our viewers if they want to check it out. And you basically, it's a list of all the unis in the UK, and then of different scholarships that they give. So you can just go to the list and just click and you know, see what's available there. And then there is something which is called Chevening scholarships, and these are kind of prestigious kinds of grants, and I think they're mostly for business and law and economics students. They're very competitive, and I think they're really quite big. I mean, they cover all the expenses. So that's just another link, just you know, just to check it out. Yeah, another thing that I thought about might be, you know, a possible funding from the home country, like from different institutions or from different companies, for example. I know that, for example, some companies might give scholarships, but then the condition would be that once you finish your studies, you go back to your home country and that you work for them. So that might be one option to consider. Yeah, another thing is short-term study grants. Because I had actually, last semester, I had a friend living with me. He was my flatmate, and he was from Russia. And so he studies in his home university, but he came here to London just for one term. And he came to the London School of Economics, and he's doing his master's in business. So it's a business school. And so he got a grant for this. He got a grant for one term. So I think that there are much more opportunities for short-term study grants. I mean, there's quite a lots of them. So this is definitely one thing to know about. And what I would suggest, if our viewers are interested, in studying in the UK, I think the best thing to do is to go to the individual university websites where you search, you search through their programs and through their subjects, you see what you want to study, and then you see what are the opportunities. And they would normally have, like links to the, undergraduate scholarship opportunities, and then postgraduate opportunities, scholarship, and then PhD grants and things like that. So one thing that I would do, and what I did when I was applying both for the MA and for the PhD, just to go to the specific university where you want to study. And what you need to consider there is, you need to consider, okay, let me just get back to you, Andre, for a second. Can you see me?
Yes, I can see you.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask you, is there some subjects?
Okay, I'm here. Sorry, can you repeat that?
It's easy to get grants for some subjects, for example, art and culture, than get grants for medical students and medical students.
Right. Well, yeah, that's a good question. Well, yeah, there's lots and lots of opportunities out there, I would say, and I would, what I would suggest, is just to go to the specific uni where where you're thinking that you might want to do your studies, and you basically what you need to consider is like the location, and you can look at the rank, at the rankings, like the subject rankings and the uni rankings. At the costs, because as we've already said, living in London is significantly more expensive than elsewhere. And one thing that, for example, that you need to consider for your PhD is, basically to be able to find your supervisor or the person with whom you would like to work. And it's great if you can find this person, before you actually apply, just to know that, somebody who's in your area and who's into your topic, and it's very good actually to contact them beforehand, like to just send them an email and to ask them if they would be interested in supervising your topic and things like that. So basically the answer to your question is, it varies, it depends, and I think it quite depends on different unis and on different programs. So for example, I researched different unis specifically with having in mind international and specifically Russian students, which is interesting for our viewers. So what I found out is, for example, so I went to the London School of Economics and Political Science webpage, and this uni specializes in social sciences, as well as business and economics. And so what I found out is that there's currently 112 Russian students, 54...
Are you putting presentation now, because you disappeared for a few seconds? So now I can see now I can see your presentation.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so now you can see, lovely. So it's called the London School of Economics and Political Science. So it specializes in social sciences, in business and economics. And what I found out is that they currently having 112 Russian students, 54 on the undergraduate and 58 on the graduate level. And so they do, they give out scholarships, and they give, financial support for these students. And actually, they're having a free webinar for prospective graduate students from Russia next week on February the 3rd. So what do you think? If any of our viewers would be interested, they're very welcome to book for this webinar. I think it could be very useful. What do you think, Andre?
Yeah, definitely. We will put some information on our website as well. So I will get a link and try to put it across as well.
Yeah, because I think it's a very good opportunity, and it's, as I already said, this uni is ranked 9 among the top 10 unis in the UK. So I think it's a,
So
yeah.
which one is number 1?
Sorry?
Which one is number 1?
Oh, number 1 is Oxford. Okay, no, it was Cambridge, and Oxford is the second one. So yeah, but it's a very LSE. It's a very well-known university. That's the uni where my flatmate studied. So he came just for 1 term, and he really loved it. So my Russian friends. So yeah, I think it's a good opportunity. And I found out, I'm switching to the next slide, and that they actually do give PhD studentships for both European Union and overseas students, and that these scholarships cover fees and living costs for the 4 years of study in London. So I think that's definitely something that, that is worth looking into.
To apply for PhD studentship, you need to do from university, so you need to pass some English exams, and you need to have masters.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I was just coming to that. Yeah, to the language requirement. Let me go back to that just in a moment. I just wanted to mention another uni, which is also in London. It's called Birkbeck College, London, and it has all different kinds of programs, like in business, in law, in history of arts, and so it's social sciences and humanities. It's really and hard sciences. It's really quite mixed. But what's interesting about this uni that it specializes in part-time and in evening study alongside work. So it specializes in adult learners who come back to school after a period of working and doing other stuff. So that's a quite good thing to know about as well. And they also have they provide information on options for prospective Russian students. So I just put a link there, and it's possible to have a Skype meeting with one of their officers as well, and then they you can ask questions and they give you information. But it's quite good, if you also would like to work part-time, which might be an option, to add to your
Do you know law requirements? How many hours work, or are there any regulations?
Yes. So I'm just coming to that. Yes, and okay, and yeah, just to mention. So what's what I have on this slide is, just to bear in mind again that the living costs vary. In London, they're around 1,000 per month, £1,000, and in Edinburgh, for example, in Scotland, that there would be smaller. There would be around 700, and so this is something that you want to know when you want to apply to a uni. But what you asked, Andre, yes. So let me just go to the next slide that I have here, which is about visas, to the UK for international students, because obviously before you come here, you need to, as a Russian student or non-EU person, you need to obtain a student visa. And I mean, imagine this, Andre. This is really so the general student visa for non-EU students is like £322. Imagine.
It's quite a lot, really, for a lot of people. But if you pay £9,000 for tuition, I think you can bear this cost. But it's quite a lot, really. If you think. But it's one. Do you need to get this visa every year, or it's just one-off visa for period of studying?
Yes. So there are 2 types of visas for international students, and you have this. It's called like general student visa, the costly one, and you basically get it for your period of study. So if it's
so you need already acceptance from university before you apply for visa?
Yes.
And then you pay for your tuition, or how it works?
Yes, so you basically, I don't know all the details, but I put a link there to the home office pages, and it really has all the regulations and different. But I suppose that you would need to have a letter of acceptance from your uni, And then obviously what you asked for me, what you asked before, you know, to be able to be admitted, you know, on a PhD level, you need to have finished an MA, you need to have an MA degree, or in order to, you know, to be admitted to an MA level, you would need to have a BA degree, and so on and so on. And also, if these degrees were in English, and you know, and you have a certificate, you have a diploma which says these degrees were taken in English, in the English language, then that would be okay. But if not, if that's not the case, you would need to have a proof that you are an efficient in English, that you can, you know, that you are able to undertake these courses in the English language. So there is something which is called IELTS test, and it's a standardized English language test internationally. And so normally the British Council, you know, they give this exam. You can take this exam with them, or they would organize it, or you can contact them and, you know, find more information through them. So because this would also be one of the requirements for the visa, you know, to show that you're proficient in the English language. So yeah, so that would be, so as I was saying, so, you know, there are two different visa options. So the costly one, as we already said, is for the whole period of your study. And normally you would be able to take a part-time work during your studies, and normally it's up to 20 hours per week. That's the usual working hours for students here. Or if you're coming just for a short study, so just up to 6 months, if you're just here for one term, for example, then the visa would be significantly smaller. It would be £85. But as I said, yeah, definitely just check out the Home Office webpage, and, you know, there are all different, you know, things that you need to, you know, because obviously you would need to show some kind of proof that you can support yourself as well. You know, because they don't want you to work too much, or, you know, to stay here as a worker in the UK. So you would need to show, you know, that you got funding, that you got a scholarship from the uni, or maybe like a letter from your sponsor, or maybe you would need to show bank statements that you have enough money in your accounts, you know, and things like that.
Where you could work for these 20 hours, where usual places where students working at the moment, or people who doing masters or PhD?
Yes.
Are there a lot of opportunities to find work, or
I would imagine? Yes, thank you.
Which industry employs them?
Yes, I would imagine that there are like quite a few opportunities actually. So normally the unis, they have like, you know, employment services, student services, and then they would, okay, let me just wanted to come back to, yeah, they would normally have, like in the Goldsmith University, where I'm currently studying, you know, they have like, you know, student services, and then you go in and then you tell them, oh, I really need to, you know, I really need to get some job because I need extra money, you know, and then they would really help you. They would try to find like a local job, maybe like in a restaurant or in a shop, or maybe, I don't know, maybe doing some babysitting, or maybe doing some, you know, like services like these. But they would definitely be able to find you something. I think that mostly is not a problem, and they would, you know, sometimes they would, like in different unis, sometimes they would organize like job fairs, and then you know, you have like fairs where like lots of employers come, and then you can go directly to the employer and you give them their CV, and then they say, okay, you know, we can take your CV, and when we have a, you know, an open position, we can call you, and things like that. So it's usually that works quite well, I think, with part-time jobs. It's not a problem.
Well, another question I wanted to ask you is, you know, when you're studying, do you have a work placement or while you study? And once you graduated, would university offer you some job opportunities, or you need to find jobs yourself?
Yeah, do you mean in my case, or just generally?
In general, yeah. Well, in your case, obviously, when you talk about things,
yeah.
and
Yeah. So my university is a specific case. So it's the it's an American university in the middle of Hungary, in in Budapest. So the main idea behind this uni was to have students from the former socialist countries, including Russia and the former Soviet countries, and also like countries from former Yugoslavia, right? And they have also American students. So the idea is like to finish your degree there and then to go back to your country and to to find a job there. So that was the main idea, behind the university where I am studying. But about British universities, it's a good question. I know, well, what I know is that they also have something like, while they are able to offer you part-time positions while you're studying, they also have something like career advice services. So they might be able to help you with actually, finding maybe, a more, longer-term employment here if you don't want to go immediately back to your home country, or things like that. That might be one way, to go about it.
So, do you have freedom of looking for job anywhere in the world, or do you have, after obviously you have some grants when you studying? So, do you have to go back to your home country, or you have full freedom to look for job anywhere in the world?
Yes. So I am originally from Croatia, and Croatia, has been part of the EU since 2 years ago. So now it has become much more easier for Croatian people, to find a job within the EU. And for example, with Britain, with the UK, it's still a bit different, because since Croatia was the last country to enter the EU, they still, Britain still has restrictions for Croatian nationals. So it might be a bit more difficult to find, like, longer term employment. But also like in the kind of higher qualification jobs, that might not be, that much of a problem as with lower qualification jobs. For example, just to give you one example, I know that a lot of medical doctors, for example, they go to the UK and then they find employment here. They come from Croatia, so medical doctors and nurses. So there's definitely, a market, out there, and they need more people, and so other people from other European countries do come to Britain. I'm not sure exactly what's the deal with the international students. That might be a bit more, a bit more difficult. Did you have any more questions? I just had one last slide to show.
Yeah, let's do last slide, and obviously I will ask people to ask some more questions if they have any. So let's go to the slide.
So I had the visas. Can you see the slide now?
Well, it's slowly coming up, so it will be there in a few minutes. I will tell you when it's appear, okay?
Okay, yeah. So the last slide was about the visas. And now
we can see it, yeah. It's there.
Is there?
Yeah.
Perfect. So I just had the very last slide, which is like just to give our viewers like 2 web pages which have some more information on studying in the UK, and the first one it's called studylondon.ac.uk, and it's basically like a database of all the London universities. So you can just go there and search through the database and look at the programs and so on. And the other one I think is quite would be quite useful. It's called studyintheuk.com, and they actually you can book an appointment with them. I would imagine it's a Skype meeting, and then you can ask them basically all you want, and they can give you free advice. And it's for international applicants. So yeah, when you have an idea of what you want to study and where you want to study, and you are asking yourself, oh, how do I get a scholarship, or how do I get a grant? And so yeah, so basically you just you can book an appointment with them, and they will be able to provide help. So yeah, that was my last slide, Andre.
Okay. So coming back to questions. So one of the questions we have at the moment is what is percentage men and women who studies in university, and what is kind of job opportunities after they graduated.
So can you repeat just?
So what is? I would say probably if I would rephrase this question is, is there still a disadvantage to be a woman in the working place compared with the man after you graduated?
Yes. Yeah, in the unis and both in the workplace.
Yeah, well, after you graduated, so I can't see any problems to be a woman in the university.
Yeah, because I don't know about the numbers, but I would imagine that it's that it's maybe even more women attend. I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure. We would need to check the numbers, but I would say that the numbers of women and men who study nowadays in unis are quite kind of similar. So it's not a problem to study as a woman in the uni anymore. That's definitely true. About the work, yeah. Well, in some areas, I would imagine that women would still get smaller salaries for the same kind of jobs that they are doing. That might be true. But then in terms of like, for example, there is like equality politics is very important here, and not just between genders, but also different races and different ethnicities, and multiculturalism is something that is really important and here. And so in terms of that, yeah, I think that employers they do try to offer equal opportunities. And for example, when I was looking at some job applications, and they would really stress for example, that that they would employ like people with disabilities, or in order to that they would like to that they encourage people with disabilities or women to apply. So in terms of that, I think that many employers insist on equal opportunities here. Did we have any more questions, Andre?
I need.
Oh, wait, I can't hear you.
Okay, so I had problem with my microphone, so it should be okay now.
I couldn't hear you for a few seconds. Now I can hear you again.
So we just asked our viewers to ask some more questions about different subjects. Would they like to hear more about PhD studies, or if they would like to hear more about, obviously next Sunday we will be talking about human rights and women and stuff. So I think it's good to talk about equal opportunities and how they implement it, because it's, one thing is what is stated as a statement, or, each country have a constitution where it said, people have equal opportunity, but how it works in real life, how it's implemented and stuff like this. So,
yeah.
Well, I can't see any questions at the moment, so we're out of our time for today. Thank you, Fani, for joining our lecture. Hopefully, people will ask some questions through email or through Skype, so they can write to us or ask more questions, and we're happy to answer any of their questions.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming, and we're just finishing for today. Thank you a lot for your presentation. It was really interesting, even for me. So I'm really grateful for what you
Thank you,
want
Andre,
to
for
do.
inviting
Thank you very much. So, and see you next Sunday.
See you
All
next
the best.
time. Bye bye.